Again, if you're just joining us, my name's Reverend Michael McMorrow. I am the senior minister up in Granada Hills, California. So that's up the 405 freeway, and if you know where the Budweiser plant is, we're just 6 miles east of that, across from O'Grady's Pub on Chatsworth Street, if you're one who uses such landmarks. And so I'm delighted to be here. I have a deep connection with Redondo Beach. Many of you may have ran into me over the years at Arrowhead. Who's ready to go back to Arrowhead now? Are we going to take it for granted ever again? Right? So I know that I've been missing it. I was really bummed that we weren't able to swing it this year. But I'm really looking forward to being with everybody next year. And I'm now a published author. Did you know this, counselor? Yeah. Only $10 on Amazon if you have Prime. So there's been a lot going on. But up in Granada Hills, there are actually hills. You don't really think of the valley as having hills, but we do have hills. On the south end of the valley is where the Ventura Freeway is, and that's where the weather's a little nicer. And then in Northridge area, which is where I am, there's hills up there as well, and a park called O'Melveny Park. Now, O'Melveny Park is the second largest park in Los Angeles County, behind Griffith Park. And so there's all kinds of trails, and it's just a lovely place. If you get up there, treat yourself to O'Melveny Park. But hiking in those hills is one of my favorite pastimes. Now, for one thing, it's a good workout. So I actually went to the gym this week for the first time in a year and a half. Well, if I'm honest, it's the first time in like 2 years. Every year the wife says, "Why are you paying for that membership?" Because of the potentiality that I may get to the gym. Yes, so the great thing about getting up on the hills, of course, is unlike the gym where you can just step off of the threshold. If you walk a half an hour in, you got to walk a half an hour out. And the other thing, of course, is that when I'm huffing and puffing up that hill, it's a kind of walking meditation. Okay, maybe I'm gasping and clawing up the hill, but it's still like a meditation because I'm not really focused on anything else but my breath. And I also listen to podcasts. So I listen to Unity Online Radio. There's a great program on there called World Spirituality, which I was interviewed for here recently. And of course, one of my all-time favorites is Alan Watts. Maybe you too like Alan Watts. Now, it's against this backdrop that I share with you my thoughts today, because I have been contemplating this entire month, the Soul's Call. And particularly this Sunday's talk title, which is The Soul's Call to Freedom. The Soul's Call to Freedom. And so I think this is very timely because, next week is the Independence Day holiday. It also is going to be for Granada Hills the day that we open because we wanted to tie it with Independence Day. And so this focus is timely, particularly given for the last couple of years, right? So we're emerging out of this year and a half of restriction and limitation, and as religious scientists, we don't dig that scene at all. And yet we also have had this opportunity to go within and practice our spiritual practices so that we can know a greater truth of our life, that although some places have been restricted, some places have been limited, that in our own hearts, within our own homes, we're still free. And it has been a year and a half of all different kinds of restrictions, limitations. Some we've bucked against, some we've moved with. The social upheaval that's been associated with all of that, of course. And then sprinkle that, marbled within all of that was this wonderful experience known as the national election. So there's been a lot of stuff going on. This is a very unique opportunity to practice Independence Day and for all of us to celebrate this, this place in which we live, this space in which we share, where we call forth the universal truths of liberty and the pursuit of happiness as truths of not only for our own life, but in the life of others as well. And then, of course, we can't get away from the fact that many people have also died or have had friends or people that they know who've had loved ones transition. Some from COVID, some from other things. So we have one family in our little center. So our center's about a third of your size, maybe a quarter. So even in our little center, we had a family that lost 6 members to their family last year. 4 through COVID and 2 from broken hearts, maybe, who knows. So a lot has happened. A lot has happened, and we've had a lot of time to think, to contemplate, to reflect without the usual distractions. Have you noticed how our lives are already starting to kind of amp up? That we're already, frankly, I'm ready. I'm ready for that. But there is an energetic, for instance, people are far less courteous driving right now. That was the one thing I noticed when everything shut down. Wow, these freeways actually work pretty good when there's no one on them, right? And now Parnelli is in every other car. So we've had this time of reflection and consideration as to how things can be different going forward. And as we become willing to move away from our old default modes of thinking that we may have been locked into pre-pandemic. Now, religious scientists would never do that, I know. Maybe I'm the only one. But become willing to dismantle our structure of knowing, we can then create a new design for living, which calls to us to live from a much deeper place within us, which maybe we have connected to through this great pause. And our teaching can be very helpful. If we have this new design for life, our teaching can be very helpful in this pursuit. So one of the first things that Ernest Holmes says right away in his book, The Science of Mind, the text, what we call the textbook, is that the inherent nature of man is forever seeking to express itself in terms of freedom. Now, the word freedom itself can be kind of a tricky word. So to illustrate this, I would invite you to join me in this little exercise. So you're there at home, and for those of you who are here, just get comfortable for a minute. If you choose to, close your eyes and just take a breath and release. Bring your attention to the movement of the breath in the nostril. This is an exercise, not a meditation, so don't freak out. And then just observe what you think when I say, what image comes up for you when I say automobile. And just take a breath and exhale. What do you think, what image do you feel when I say the word sofa? Breathe in, release that. And then considering the word pajamas. Taking a breath, releasing that. And then how about apple? Breathing in, releasing that. So now just consider in this exercise that you had this thought that pointed to an object that was not necessarily, that the word helps to describe the object, and yet at the same time, each one of us had a different experience of what that would be. That the language pointed to the object, but was not the object itself. The object exists independently of our image of it. Now, Alan Watts would point to this and he'd say, in a world without eyes, how does light exist? In a world of soft bodies, is a rock still hard, or is it just a rock? So his point in this particular lecture that he was giving us was that we are in relation with all of life, with all of creation. And that what we know as religious scientists is that there, and Buddhism too, and Hinduism too, and Indian philosophy, that there is a thought component tied to all of this. And that our thought is subjective, is our own personal experience. So even though we can all picture a sofa, we're all going to picture different kinds of sofas. So in this way, if you can, just again, taking a deep breath and releasing, and consider the word freedom. Freedom. Taking a breath and releasing that. Now this is a little trickier, isn't it? Freedom. And I encourage you to consider these images for a moment, again, to consider how subjective they are. So for one person, when you say freedom, it may be the waving American flag. For another, it may be a Grateful Dead concert in the 70s, doing the whole thing. Hopefully it's a little bit of both. So I have, for instance, I have brothers who are in the defense industry. So freedom is different for them than it is for myself as a civilian. Even though we're all raised as military brats, I was an Eagle Scout, I'm as American as apple pie. And yet, this notion of freedom, I'm bringing this up because we're all going to be meeting here in August. When we have these discussions around the dinner table, people are going to come at it from different places. So, you have this image of freedom in your mind, and staying with emotion, the notion that we think in images to a point, to an object in reality, quote unquote, whatever that is. So you have this notion of freedom as you were just currently imagining it. And so now taking a breath and consider harmony. And breathing in and consider light. And releasing that. And breathing in the word God. And releasing that. And breathing in the word Spirit. And releasing that. And now breathing in the word consciousness. And releasing that. And now finally again, breathing in and the word freedom. Releasing. Now see if there's anything different going on there. So primed with thoughts of the divine first, has your notion of freedom shifted at all? So is there room for softness within it? Is it a more fluid idea, right? So is it more like a mighty fortress, or is it more of a divine flow? So as we emerge from these ways of restricted living, how can we express then life with Spirit so courageously that we not only raise the vibration of our own life in ways of freedom, free of licentiousness, but free just the same, so that we not only raise the vibration and expression of our own life, but can we do it so that we can raise the vibration of those around us as well? Now, this is the next step, I think, in our religious science practice. So we often come to this teaching where we need to get stuff. Right? I don't know about you. I did not come here as an inspired master of the universe. I came here beat up. That's what this book is about. I came here 20 years ago with some pretty major resentments that, which I was to learn was going to require a healing within my consciousness. But it was very self-obsessed. How can I make my life? I need a new car. I need a new place to live. I need a new girlfriend. I need this. I want. And then I start working with this thing called the law, whatever the heck that was. And then one time I had this one answered prayer that I could not attribute to anything within the material universe or even synchronicity or anything like that. That it had a vibration to it of rightness and of where the cosmic tumblers all clicked in, and then this demonstration showed up. So what was different? Well, Holmes says also on this same page, this is all on the very first page of the textbook, to suppose that the creative intelligence of the universe would create man in bondage and then leave him bound would be to dishonor the creative power which we call God. So in this way then, the seed of freedom must be planted in the innermost being of you and me, but like the prodigal son, we must make this discovery for ourselves. And I think this is really what we have been dealing with. Really, since I got into ministry, there was the financial implosion, and then we kind of had some just normal stuff. And then we had the pandemic. But when I came to religious science, it was right before 9/11. So this has only been 20 years. Think about how much life has changed in this time. And so what is being called to be revealed then? As this outer expression of life that we are co-creating together, what is being revealed then is being revealed to be healed. In just the same way that the struggles that I had as an individual were being revealed to be healed. And that we learn that together, the divine plan then is one of freedom, that bondage is not God ordained, that freedom is the birthright of every living soul, and Holmes goes on to say all instinctively feel this, that the truth points to freedom under the law. Thus, the inherent nature of man is forever seeking to express in terms of freedom. So that means not only just my life, but your life as well. It means not only the people that I agree with, but the people that I strongly disagree with as well. So in this way, I think our teaching is uniquely positioned to help people find their way back to the center. But we're going to have to do our own work first, because we cannot give away something we haven't got. We're going to have to not only practice our teaching, but then to model it to others, to have a lasting impact within our own life and the life of others. It's not enough. It is not enough to talk the talk. Right? We must walk the walk. So our communities now are beginning to come back out of this very charged time and also this longing to be with each other. And it's going to call for us to really set aside some of these things that maybe we've been bickering about, and to understand and know that behind all of it is a universal consciousness longing to express itself in ways of freedom. So I'm getting the sign to shut the hell up. So let's take a deep conscious breath before I get off on another tangent. Let's take a deep conscious breath and just release into that, and knowing that there is an I behind the I. There is an I behind whom I think I am, a universal truth, a universal reality, first cause, that I am choosing to connect with that right now, that I am bringing this experience of my life, these last couple years of my life, that I'm now willing to offer all of it onto the altar of consciousness, to sift out that which no longer serves me, and to release those things that are keeping me held bound in any way. That I now call forth in my life and the life of anyone listening to this prayer. I now call forth our greatest life now, that is filled with light, love, peace, harmony, truth, connectedness, and respect for ourselves and for all beings. So we see that day, we see the way in which we create a world that works for all, one thought at a time. And so we shift and lift the tendency of our own thinking to this great expression, knowing that it is indeed the living power and presence of the divine, both impulsing and pulling us to this vision. So we take a deep breath on that and just release that and allow it to be so. And so it is. Amen. Yes. Time of our service for you to practice generosity by means of the offering. And so you have available to you many modes of giving for those of you who have been so faithful in supporting this ministry throughout this time, even though you have not been physically present. Just know that the presence of your support in physical coin is deeply appreciated. That there are ways to give through the church website. Just hit the donate button, look for PayPal, and you can do that right now if you choose to. And so for whatever way, these many ways of good, the revenue stream of life finds its way to the center. We just recognize that all of it is a demonstration of the individual expressed as generosity and love. And so we, representing the heart of this spiritual community of Centers for Spiritual Living, Redondo Beach, accept these gifts with deep love and respect, as we know together they go forth to prosper and to bless not only the vision and mission of this center and everyone connected to it, but also through our city of Los Angeles, our state of California, our United States of America, all of its temples, churches, schools, universities, the people who attend them, the people who support them. For our planet as well, that we know that all of it is an emanation from the very mind of the Spirit itself, that we see it. This fills us with a sense of grace and power into ways of spiritual living that raise ourselves and the lives of others. And that's a good thing. And so it is. Amen. So, I'm supposed to say goodbye now, well, along with a blessing, is that right? Okay, all right. So let's just one more time go deep within. And just know that the Spirit of the Lord is not only upon us, but it is expressing in, through, and as all of our life in this very moment. That this Spirit is not bound by precedent of any kind, that we call it forth now and allow it to continue to express itself as resilience within the body temple, that we align at a subatomic level energetically with every aspect of the divine to allow itself to express itself as a radiant and healthful body, that a mind that is imbued with radiant good thoughts, that we are called to radiant good action, and that we experience a joie de vie, the joy of life itself, as our life, that we share it easily, for we live in the overflow of life, that we joyously and exultantly look forward to coming together physically as spiritual community to welcome back Dr. Moira and all of our friends. And so from this place of deep joy and gratitude, we know that we are blessed. We know that it is so. And together we acknowledge this by saying, and so it is. Amen. So thank you for joining us this morning. Thank you to Andy for his musical inspiration, our volunteers for Mark and Monica, and then we have folks on the camera and Melissa on screen and Beverly in the back. So thank you all for being here, and we'll see you next week. Or actually, Dr. Moira will see you next week at 11 o'clock. Thank you. We'll see you then.